Welcome to Utica County. My name is Josh Whitaker. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Whitaker Hamer, and I am your host today. With me is
Ashley Penner,
also an attorney with the law firm of Whitaker Hamer. If you're watching this video podcast today, you're probably watching it because you have a estate planning consult coming up with the law firm. What we thought we would do here today is kind of talk about how that consult will go, some of the information that we'll need from you, and just generally make you prepared. We never want to take anybody by surprise. We're very proud of you that you've taken the time to schedule your estate planning consult because it's very hard to do. I always tell people, even after I became an attorney, it took me about 7 years to do my estate plan, even though it was free to me and I didn't have to meet with anybody. It just is something that's very difficult to do. So we want you to be as prepared as possible. Ashley is one of our attorneys who does a lot of estate planning. Ashley, what is the first thing you'd want people to be prepared for in a consult?
So I always tell my folks, again, as you point out, it's something that takes a lot of effort and momentum to get to the table to do. So don't overthink it. Just think about what you own, the assets that you have, who you own those with, if you own them with a spouse, if you own them individually by yourself, or if you own them with someone else, how you want to leave them, where you want them to go after your death, and then who in your life do you trust to accomplish these things. It might be family members, it might be friends, it might be children, but somebody that you trust to carry out your wishes.
I will, just to backtrack a little bit, when you talk about assets, we're talking about everything you own, right? So we're talking about your house, real property. If you inherited part of a lake house from your grandparents or you own some land out in the county with some brothers and sisters, we're going to look at all the real property you own. We're going to look at personal property, which is everything else, right? Vehicles, checking accounts, things like that. And even assets that we might call non-probate assets, but like life insurance and investment accounts and things like that. But literally, you're going to look at everything you own.
Exactly. And that may sound very simple, but sometimes it takes you a moment to really sit down and think about pulling all these pieces together. So just having spent a little bit of time on doing that will prepare you tremendously for the consult.
Another thing you mentioned I think is very important. I always use the word fiduciaries, but who do you want to be your executor, your backup executor, trustee of any trust? The big one is guardians of underage children. So that, for me, that was me and my wife's big hang up to get this done, is we had to come to an agreement. If something happened to both of us, who would take care of our rambunctious 3 underage children? And I find that holds up a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing to not only contemplate you not being around to take care of your children, but then who's going to do the best job in your place. And that's the thing that prevents most people from getting to the table to do the rest of it. But I kind of tell these folks, something's better than nothing. Let's get something down, because ultimately there are always going to be state-supplanted courses of action and defaults, but that's just usually not where you want to find yourself.
Right. Especially with kids.
Absolutely, with kids.
Yeah. And so with after guardian, if you're not going to be here and you've gotten to that point where you've had to nominate a guardian to take care of your children, you're also going to be in a position where you have to name a trustee to manage the assets that you leave behind for those same children. And sometimes that's the same person, sometimes it's not. But definitely something you have to think about as well.
Exactly. Yeah. You might have, family members that have different strengths. So maybe the accountant in the family is going to be the one who's managing the money, but they're not the warm caregiver. So you want the person who's really loving, but they might have 6 months worth of mail in the back of their car. You don't want that to be the person who's managing your child's inheritance. So just pulling from, the strengths of the people that you have in your circle that you trust.
And usually we'll sit down and spend some time talking about most of those questions we ask because we're going to be putting your will together. But we also will ask you about a power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney.
Absolutely. These are some of the most important documents you can have. The will is very important, and even more so in blended family scenarios where we might want to benefit someone who is not a blood relative or an adopted relative. But powers of attorney are documents that are effective while you're living, while you're here. The will, being a testamentary document, of course, is only going to speak for you after your death. Right. So while you're still here, you may experience some disruption in your life, whether it be temporary or more permanent, that requires someone to step in and pay bills. Provide maintenance and support for your children at that point in time, because of course, until you're gone and deceased, that will is not going to distribute anything to them. But then, of course, also a healthcare power of attorney, appointing someone who can make your medical decisions for you. And just like we talked about the distinction between trustee and guardian, that may be a different person. That healthcare agent may be, the person in the family that's got experience working in the medical field, whereas the person you appoint under your general power of attorney or financial power of attorney is, again, the one who is good with accounting and details.
Yeah. So really, the estate planning consult, we're getting you to put everything on the table. And we're going to take a look at it and try to get you set up in the most advantageous way possible. And different clients have different concerns. Younger couples are more concerned about the kids, the guardianship. As you get older, you're worried about how do I get things to the next generation the safest way possible? Do I need a living trust? Do I need a non-revocable trust? But our first consult is always a conversation about everything. We really get to know you.
That's right. That's right. Lay it all out there. And, I find sometimes folks might have different dynamics in their families that, they're embarrassed about or just don't want to bring to the surface. But some of these things are incredibly important in crafting the documents so that they fit your needs and your circumstances. So of course we have attorney-client privilege. I always want to make sure my clients understand that they can speak to me about anything that is remotely relevant to our conversation, whether it's might need to disinherit a child or we've got a concern about someone who may have a substance abuse problem and we need to implement a trust to make distributions to them over time. But all of these things are factors, so yes, lay it all out there, don't hold anything back, as generally is not advisable if you're consulting with an attorney, to be completely honest.
Well, Ashley, I appreciate it. I think this gives everybody a really good look at what you can expect when you sit down with us to do your estate plan. But if you have any further questions, you can reach us by phone, 919-772-7000, or you can visit us at the website, wh.lawyer.